So in Illustrator, we can create our own levels of posterization. In Photoshop, you've probably seen posterization, and it follows these beautiful little contour line drawings. So here, I'm hitting Control to toggle on and off a wireframe versus a color view, because once we get into this, we don't want to cover over our shapes so that we lose track of what exactly it is we're doing. Okay, so let's take a look at how. I'm going to hold down Control here. I've created a new layer, and I'm going to create a bunch of boxes, and we're going to sample some of these gradients to show you how I've set these up. Alright, so here, select the first box. If I use the eyedropper tool, or I hit the I key, I can grab this, which, if I check in my appearance menu, is going to show up as 70% screen. So you notice here in my gradient palette that I have a black, and you're probably familiar with the fact that black in a screen is not going to show up. Okay, we're going to use that to our advantage. So here, I'm select another color, and here I'm going to hit I again, and I'm going to grab something that will probably be a multiply, and it is. And you'll notice that the opacity on this is 100. Let's go back and check the other one. Opacity on that is 70. Okay, here we can grab yet another gradient, and I'm going to hit the I key, and we're going to grab a hair color. Actually, let's grab a gradient in his hair. There we go. So that's showing even more. What I like about this gradient here is that you'll notice that our opacity is 50% too. These are all similar things that we can do in Photoshop, and it's also available now in Illustrator. So let's take a look here. I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to select these three rectangles, and let's copy them onto a white background where we can see a little bit more clearly what they're doing. Okay, so here, this is our screen, this is our multiply, and this is just a straight up color with an opacity applied to it. Okay, so we can layer up all these different things as though the layers are going to work together to create some of these beautiful, beautiful colors. And if you've ever worked in a watercolor painting, it's very much the same thing, except that you can't use a screen in watercolor. Everything is just a basic multiply. So if we come back to our image of David, and we're looking at this, I'm going to hold down the Control key to toggle on and off. You can see that I've isolated all these things by hand. Okay, so this is hand-drawn artwork. This is completely subjective. It is not something that is done by a color filter. Let's take a look at how this might work in Photoshop. So here we can come up under Image, Adjustments, and go to Posterize. So here we can start to see where some of these lines are coming from. Okay, and this is all going to be up to the artist. It is completely a subjective thing where you're going to create these lines using the pen tool, and we're going to layer over top of things to come up with how we're going to do this. Okay, so let's go back to our Illustrator file. And how will we start this? So I've got a blank new layer here, and I'm going to use my pen tool to start defining an area. So for my base shapes, they're always going to be 100% opacity. And one of the things that I like to do, oops, let's hit Control here on this visibility so we can see what we've got. I'm going to basically select any area that's going to have a flesh tone, because this is going to be the base for that. And when I come up here into the hair, I'm going to be very much less than careful. Okay, there's a reason for this. So now if I hit Control, I can look at this. Okay, Down here I can hit Control, and if I hit 0, maybe minus, so you can see that I can tell where my colors are coming from. Alright, so here let's take the eyedropper tool, and we're going to sample a color from David's face. Okay, and then I'm seeing a lot of nice kind of maroons, kind of grayish maroons in here, and I can grab this color here and pull it down into my gradient palette. There we go. And move this out. Okay, so here it's 50%. We want our base layer to be basically 100% all the time. Here, I can change this to more of a purple color. So now I'm getting even more subjective. Alright. And maybe we want to warm this up just a wee bit more there. Okay, I like that. Okay. So let's go back. I'm going to hit Control. There we go. And as I'm working, there's no sense in me cutting out exactly this shape with the pen tool, because I'm going to come in and do it again. So it makes more sense to think about how these shapes are going to overlay each other. And not waste time trying to figure out how I'm going to get this to fit exactly. So here on the ear, yes, I do have it a little bit close, alright? But now, if I hit Control one more time up here, now I've got the same colors. Let's hit Control 0 and take a look at David's hair. I'm going to hit Control minus, pull that down a little bit more. Alright, and let's grab a base color for David's hair. Alright, there we go. So now I can take this color and let's try pull this down into there. Alright, so now you'll notice that we have the light side on the right or the left, darker sides on the right. Let's zoom in a little bit and let's work on some of the facial features. I'm going to hit Control, click on the visibility icon, and now let's come in here and work on some of these shadows that are starting to define the face. There we go. And so now I can come back. Let's hit Control, and I am going to sample this color. Okay, I'm going to make this a multiply. I can do that by finding my transparency, here we go, palette, okay, and we're going to make this a multiply, so watch what happens. There we go. You can change the opacity on this through your palette, and gradually what we're going to do is we're just going to keep building things up. So let's take a look and see what would happen if we added in a screen next. Okay, so let's look for a highlight in David's face. So here I'm seeing a nice bright highlight here on his nose. Alright, and I can take the exact same palette, which we have here in appearance, and change this into a screen. Okay, so let's take a look now. And with our gradient tool, we can do all kinds of things and change how this is going to work. Alright, we can change our level of opacity. Alright, and gradually we're going to build this up bit by bit into the way I have created the other face. So let's click back on this face and turn this face off. So gradually build this up into something that works. So we're using the gradient tool to create directions, and sometimes we want to pull it end to end to get the most contrast. Sometimes we may want to water that contrast down. Okay. We can edit our palette or our gradients at any time and add, maybe we want to kick in a little bit of color here. So if I double click on this guy, maybe I want to add in some yellow or something like that. Okay. So gradually we're just going to build this up. We're going to look for breaks in color, and we're going to most of all just play with how the transparency of these colors and these washes overlay each other, because the more we get some beautiful color overlays, the more fun we're going to have. Okay, so play with this and see how it goes. This is going to be a really subjective kind of a learning thing, but this should be enough to get you up and running. Enjoy!